Share whatever you want to. There she is. So I'm going to switch to this. So welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. This is a great crew. Sounds like we have a few more people showing up right now. Okay, sorry about that. And yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a couple weeks since we've done this. I'm really glad to see everybody. I want to jump right into it. I'm not married to being done at the top of the hour, so if there's anybody that needs something or has something that they want to share, we'll make sure we have time for you. Generally, what we'll do is I'll do a quick check-in and share something, and then we'll pass the baton on. So if you have, like Abigail, you were just saying you were experiencing some kind of challenge in your work. Hey, Mike, it's great to see you, and Nate. This is a great spot to air that out because the chances are that someone else here is experiencing that same thing is highly, highly likely. So I would encourage you right now as we start this session is to think if there's something that's been bothering you or something that you're working on, if there's a bottleneck you're facing, if there's a challenge, or if there's something that really has been working really well for you that you're really excited about, this is an awesome spot to share it. And I really encourage you to. So we'll get to hear from as many people as possible and make sure everyone is listened to. So make sure to raise your hand or to write in the chat, hey, I have something I want to say. If I miss it, just make some noise and I'll catch you because I can lose focus. So thank you for being here. I just a quick check-in is I'm going to share something I've been working on. I was sitting in a 24-hour fitness this morning at 5:30 watching my son practice basketball. And I put together this little deck about something I've been working on this week, which is I'm seeking some mentorship for some bottlenecks in my life and trying to put together both a mentor situation or a coach situation, but also a group of people that are facing similar things to what I'm facing. So I've been focusing on that, but through that focus, I've been just doing some kind of introspection about the work that I do both at Fons and also as a music teacher and a musician and the hats we wear. And I wanted to share a quick, just opening little idea to get your thoughts going. And this is applying to me as well. So this deck, I've never looked at it, but I just made it like an hour and a half ago in a 24-hour fitness. So, but I think the idea is pretty cool. Can everybody see this okay? Cool. So I'm going to take 3 minutes and go over this idea that I've been focusing on. Is like, what do I actually need, right? Am I looking for in my life right now? Am I looking for a new teacher to help me with to bring my classical guitar playing back to where it needs to be? Do I need a coach? Do I need a mentor? And what am I doing with the kids I'm working with? And this week I just took a short dive down the entomology, and it became really interesting because I've talked to a couple other people in our community who are similarly looking for coaches. And this is Richard Feynman, who's one of my favorite professors of all time. You probably know who he is. But check this out. So when we think about teaching, and are we a teacher? Do we teach? What do we do? Yes, I'm a music teacher. Many of you are consider yourself teachers, but this word is one of many that we can look at. And a really interesting thing about the word teacher, what we call ourselves, is that teacher is an old English word and it's someone who imparts knowledge, skills, and concepts. And if you really let that sink in for a second, you can kind of get that vision of a teacher is someone that's often one directional, right? They're directing the conversation. The students are listening. You think of a classroom, and it's what teaching is, but it's also somewhat one dimensional compared to what we actually do in our day to day. So I was like, oh man, I'm a music teacher. Yeah, but kind of, but not really. There's a lot more going on here. And so I started digging, and then the rabbit hole was huge. I was like, I don't think I'm looking for a teacher right now. But the next thing that I looked at was a coach. And this was the most interesting thing of my whole week that I discovered was that what does coach mean? And coach comes from actually from the 15th century, the word carriage, right? And the carriage and the idea of the coach was at that point, the horse-drawn coach was your way to get somewhere, right? Your way to arrive somewhere. And over the centuries, between the 15th and the 18th century, the term coach became started to become applied to a person. And the word coach is often it's in our world, I'm sure maybe some of you have seen some ads about coaches and you're probably exhausted of it. Maybe you consider yourself a coach, but in its essence, this word's beautiful, right? The coach is the carriage. It's an active and individualized. You're setting goals, you're focusing on refining skills. This is kind of what I'm looking for right now in my life. I need someone professionally that can coach me, and I need someone that can actually really help me with developing skills that I don't have developed very well yet. And that's what I'm working on. So the coach, and if you look at the history of this, I just thought it was so cool. Is that in the 15th century, it actually the word coach is a French word, but it started in Hungary, right? With this idea of this vehicle that could bring people from one place to another, that helped people move forward. But the first real use of it being applied to a teacher was in the 18th century. In the 1700s, it was tutors carrying their students through exams. That's where that idea came from. And that kept on going until the 1800s when sports coaches picked it up, right? And I'm so interested in sports coaching now because my kids are both athletes and I'm meeting a ton of coaches and I'm seeing how much history and how much science and how much knowledge has been baked into sports coaching over the years. And it wasn't until the 1900s that we started seeing what we call like coaches, the life coaches, business coaches, and music coaches, that started coming into being. That was a much newer thing. But still, this kept me wondering a little bit about the idea of what else we could call ourselves. And when I'm in my studio with my students, I think I most closely relate to being a mentor, right? Is that for me, often maybe you think of yourself as you'll say, "Oh, I'm like a therapist to my students." And but really what we're doing is we're a mentor. We're modeling positive, safe adult relationships where students can model on someone who's been done what they've done, where they want to be and can make a positive example of that. And mentor actually comes straight from the character in Homer's Odyssey. That's where we get that word from, which was this wise advisor in Homer's Odyssey. And so the mentor is a different thing than the coach, right? This is a relationship, right? And I am so grateful for the mentors that I've had in my life. And I realize that the people that I've called coaches are really have been my mentors, right? That those have been the things that have, looking back, have given me the most forward momentum are people who have mentored me. Like they've done what I wanted to do and they let me ride along with them. They were a few steps ahead. And this idea for today that I'm hoping might stick with you as one of these as you're starting to just think a little bit deeper is when we're looking for someone to help us, I don't need I don't need like a Steve Jobs level coach right now. I need someone who's a few steps ahead of what I'm doing, someone who's just a little bit further, who's done a little bit more of what I've done. And so I'm looking and I'm seeking out a mentor and a coach. But check this out. A little bit more digging, and you might want to screenshot this page because it's actually pretty interesting, and some of these might really stick out to you. These are all different things that we consider ourselves. And we look at marketing copy and you see different teachers will call themselves different things, but they each have something that makes them really unique, right? And a lot of them can be related. But I would have loved to. I think I'm going to probably make this into a longer thing that's more than 5 minutes. But I just wanted to put this idea out today, which I love the idea of, oh my gosh, a guide, right? And you think about the guide that came from someone who helped people navigate through wilderness, right? The guru, who's the respected master, right? Leading someone towards wisdom. That's amazing, which is they're similar to a mentor, but that's a different vibe. And one of these might really connect with who you are, right? The instructor, which really interesting. It's a very formalized and structured way of putting out knowledge that's different than teacher. And the facilitator, which is guiding discussions and learning, which a lot of us, we're doing group classes. What we're doing together right now is I'm facilitating this conversation for us to help learn new things. And I just think it's a wonderful thing to think about and to apply to yourself, and then to ask yourself, and this is what I'm doing, is A, which one of these things really describes you? And which one of these things gravitates towards what you want to do, what you feel passionate about? For instance, if you want to create a great example and become the most amazing pianist in the universe, and from that you have your outset of your students and people that follow you, it's a different vibe than being a than mentoring them as it is being more of the guru, someone who's really done it, the master that's done the thing, and now you're demonstrating it for them. And also, I think that in the time that we're in right now is a wonderful time. Two things. One is to seek out mentorship. And that's something that I'm feeling where all my blocks are. I know where they are and I know what I'm looking for. And I'm seeking people to help me. I'm asking the universe for that and they pop up, right? Is you might go through this deck and what we talked about and think, oh, I could really use that. Someone who's done what I'm trying to do, someone who's already written that book, someone, whatever it is. And so what describes you? What do you need in the world? And hopefully I wanted to be very brief, but this is what I've been working on in my journey. And this really helped me. This really helped me a lot to think about what I'm actually looking for, what I want to be with the people that I work with and in what direction I want to go. So I hope that was a little bit helpful. I don't want to talk too much more. If anybody has any questions, you can throw it in the chat and we can talk about this more later. I'd be happy to share that list of ideas of different things, but it could inform your marketing. It can inform how you think about yourself. It can inform what you're doing next. It could remove some blockers, maybe put you in a direction that you want to go into. So with that, I want to just say welcome again, everybody. And I want to invite whoever would want to introduce themselves, maybe somebody who hasn't been here before, or maybe Abigail, you said you had something in particular where we could start this conversation and throw some ideas around together. So there's a lot of us here. So again, raise your hand if you have something to say, and I'll be looking out for you. Someone want to jump in? Abigail, I'm just going to call you out, Abigail. You got COVID, you've had a long week. But yeah, you haven't been here for a while, or I think ever. But yeah, tell
Yeah,
us.
I don't think I've ever made it to one of these. Um, okay, so um I joined the group on Facebook after the Asta Suzuki conference in March. And I went to a session there where the first thing you said was everybody should double their rates and I loved it. I thought everything was great about it. I kind of was already in the process of working on a new kind of format of my violin lessons. I'm a violin teacher, live in Wisconsin, and kind of seeking to move to a small group format rather than individual. And that actually has gone really, really well overall. I did that. I got one new student since then, and then all of my other students were on board with the transition. There's a couple I'm still teaching privately just because they're a little bit more advanced, um, or like one-on-one, I should say. And that all went really well. In the meantime, though, I also teach in a few private schools in the area just for lessons during the day. We pull the kids out of class for half an hour. And I'm finding that I don't have the bandwidth to like think forward at all or to try to figure out how to like put any effort into um recruitment or even I don't know. I just feel very stretched very thin right now. My kids are both my children are kind of one's in middle school and one's in second grade, and they swim and they play violin, and I'm busy with them, and so I just kind of feel like just overwhelmed by kind of everything and not really sure where to go next, I guess. Um, I would like to, I kind of don't want to teach in the schools anymore, but I also can't quit that at the moment because I don't have, like, that would be a huge hit to my income. And so I just feel stuck. I would like to move on from that at some point, but I also don't feel like I have the energy to focus on growing my private studio again. At one point it was very large, but I got overwhelmed with the individual, 25 individual lessons every week was just too much, especially with my kids getting older. So I'm stuck at the moment, I guess is what I will say.
Well, Abigail, thank you for sharing that. If anybody can anybody just hit a reaction, maybe a heart or a thumbs up? Is anyone else feeling overwhelmed here in this group, maybe in the world? I'm guessing maybe that's everybody. So that is a very vulnerable and honest thing that we are 100% everyone's feeling. So you should definitely know that you're not alone in that. Heard a couple things that were really telling in what you just said, right? Which is you mentioned you're making this switch to small groups. You mentioned you're teaching in schools and you're kind of wanting to move away from that. You mentioned that you've gotten one new student since you made this switch to new schools, new to private small groups, and you said that right now is not a time, but you also said you have these two small kids, right? And so
Mhm.
when you flip that, and we can, I'm imagining there's probably a lot of people here that are in a similar thing, is that this is where it's really hard to not hard to, but it's important to practice acceptance of the moment. This is a very short season of your life. My daughter's going to college next year. She's
Yeah,
18. And man, it's like all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh. And I know there's other people in this group that are experiencing that same thing. The season that is just ending for me, it's over.
yeah,
And yeah, and I'm really, I'm grateful I got to spend a lot of time with my kid. And I still have another kid coming up, but it's really overwhelming just in itself. If you had nothing else to do but raise your kids, that's a lot. Building your studio and having and teaching at other schools, you said you didn't want to take that hit in your income. And if you can't take that hit in your income and you've got the kids, the family, and your studio, you're feeling like, I think the big thing I would practice is being compassionate to yourself. This is the book I've been working through. It's called Self-Compassion, which if you've read this book, it's amazing, but everybody should check this out. It's by Kristen Neff, and it's just really great. And I happen to be just sitting on my desk as I was saying this, but maybe this isn't a moment for you to like ramp up your studio. Or maybe it is a moment to take some time because what I really heard in your energy is that you don't want to teach at the schools anymore, right? And that's where I would say if you didn't have all the things, I would say let's figure out how to do that, right? Whether it's risking and taking a leap and or figuring out a real plan that takes as little of your energy as possible to ramp that studio up. Because I've met you, I know that you're really awesome. I know what your vibe's like. You could definitely do it. You could make a lot more money teaching privately than you could in the schools.
yeah,
And you'd probably be really stoked if you did. And it's okay if this isn't the moment for it. You got a long time to live, right? So I maybe some if we get one person that would maybe want to reflect something else, or give Abigail a little encouragement, please pipe in. Then we can. But that's a Christina. Did I just see you on mute, or did I see somebody on mute?
Can I jump in?
Not you, Caleb. Somebody
Okay.
else. No, I'm just kidding.
So, Abigail, I went through something really similar to this about 3 years ago. I was teaching in a music store and had that was my primary income, and I was an adjunct instructor. Um, I had two pieces of advice given to me that are very long term advice. I think Steve, I think you have or maybe Eric has this like formula that you can figure out if you increase your rates, how many students you can lose and make the same amount of money. I don't have that, and I wrote it down and I lost it. But it's like one of those. It's a formula you can find. The other thing that someone told me to do, and it was the scariest advice I ever got, was work like you can, like work as much as you can and save up so you can live for 6 months, and then throw the dice. You never know if you can throw the dice until you throw the dice.
hmm
Yeah, that's great wisdom, Caleb. Thanks for sharing that. And you did that. That was 2 years ago.
Three.
That's
Yeah,
not
two,
three
like
years
right
ago.
at 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yep. And you've had a great journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll jump in with that too. I do not have
It's
a formula
Tressler.
of,
Tressler, are
hey,
you on a
what's up?
hold up a second? Are you on a ski lift right now, Tressler? Because if you are,
No,
I'm kicking you
no,
off this
virtual
call.
background's my studio. No, I'm
Oh,
not doing
okay.
that.
There you go. I
I've
didn't
got
see you.
a, yeah, I have a, oh, it's a good day. I have a gig at this jazz club that's halfway to the mountains, and I have a code to drop off all my stuff so I can use it as an instrument locker. And then I'm gonna go up skiing and then go play the gig. So it's a
Tough life.
good day. Yeah, not too, yeah, I guess I can't say I'm too overwhelmed this particular day. But I was gonna jump in. I was in a similar spot doing a lot of lessons in schools, in multi-teacher studios and some at my house. And definitely that was like burnout and thinking, I'm like, I don't think the lessons, trying to figure out how to, transition out of doing lessons entirely somehow. But when I started grad school at a certain point, I had a TA position and I had to drop like half my studio overnight. So I found someone to, so for the dollars and cents, I was at the studio that I loved that had really cool electives for the kids and performance gallery and like music technology classes. I love teaching there, but they took half the bread for overhead. So I had to cut that one and just move to doing stuff at my house and, drop some stuff in schools. And what ended up happening, and I jacked up my rates at the same time. And then what ended up, because one way to scale is, figure out how to, make more money with the same amount of time. But in my case, pretty quickly, I realized just kind of ramping up some things at my home studio, I was making the same amount of money in like way less time. And it was
Ooh.
that, and then being more selective about students. Uh, and it was really awesome. And I do love going into schools. I do workshops and coachings, like some of the boosters will pay me so I can work with all the kids, not just the few who get lessons. And I even volunteer in the local schools. Like I like going in, but as far as having the practice room with the kid, there was just so many problems with like not knowing the parents, getting kicked out because there's an assembly, or they're doing like marching band uniforms, or there's no second period today, all that stuff. So it was different ways of doing that. So it was super nice to stop those lessons, but figure out, yeah, how to ramp up the stuff that pays really well, and um, then it does, yeah, free up time for other things, for family, again, for happy to volunteer, take pro bono students and that kind of thing.
You, thank you, Tressler. And
Yeah.
Abigail, I think what he's saying too is like when if you can figure out how to do this, right, you're gonna have actually more time and more money, right? And so I really picked up on the way you said it, that you wanted to quit, that I really see this opportunity. And what Steve was just describing is this really, kind of nice way to go about doing it, to lean into it, to taper yourself off. But I think that you could actually, if you have a head of steam, I think you could do this very quickly. Like it might be 60 days, 90 days of pain of just working really hard to try to make it happen. But I think you'd be 45 days in, and you'd be like, whoa, I did it. And it's really cool. And so one of the things we would love to hear about this journey, right? Where you are with it. You're like, I'm scared. I can't do it right now. I'm going to try it next month. Or this is great stuff to share in the group because most of us have been through something similar like this, right?
Yeah.
And we would really love to help you. So anyway, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, keep us when you don't have COVID and you're feeling better, please yeah, keep us posted on how it's going. And actually before, and I know Steve just said something, but everybody here should check out the new Damian Jurado album. Steve's play yeah, and the first track on that record is such a banger, Steve. It's called Ralph A. Hughes. Is that right? And it's like 6.5 minutes of just pure Tressler shredding. And I don't know if you know Damian Jurado, but he's a great singer-songwriter. Steve, that's coming up as like one of my favorite tracks of the year. And every time I listen to it, I'm like, dang, Steve's killing this thing. So everyone should listen to that today. That should
Thanks. Thanks, Eric. Yeah. And freeing up, not teaching in schools. And I also quit my adjunct positions at universities that sucked. They don't all suck, but the ones I had did. And
mine did too.
I have time to like do things like record at home during the day or do random recording sessions. There's like a lot of things that open up when my teaching schedule is not just jammed. But yeah, with that one, he's a mellow, poetic singer-songwriter, and I did a live session with him. And I was trying to keep it buttoned up, not be the sax player who just noodles and plays a bunch of BS over everything. But once when I did something weird, he's like, "Yeah, that weird stuff. I like it. Yeah, you need to go for it." He's like, "I love Coltrane. I love late Coltrane." I'm like, I had no idea. So, his stuff is just so open and sparse. So sometimes he just wants me to go for it. So thanks, Eric, for being the number one fan of the
No, it's a
new
really good
track.
record. I mean, it's a great record, and the playing's really good, and it's really tasteful. And you killed that one. And I've been a fan of Damien Jurado's forever. He's a Seattle absolute icon. So anyway, thank you, Tressler, and
Yeah,
thanks
thanks,
Abigail
Eric.
for sharing. Hey, I want to get somebody else to hop on and say hello, and if they've got something that they'd want to share, please just unmute and say hi. I can't see everybody because there's a lot of us here today, but and if not, I can either keep talking or I can call in somebody else who hasn't been here for a while. Or Steve, you want to just pick somebody?
No, it looks like Teresa might be trying to unmute. Maybe that's not true.
No, it's true.
Hi,
Hi,
Teresa.
hi, Teresa. It's good to see
Hi,
your face.
Stevie.
What's up?
Yeah. Well, I'm now teaching like 6 days a week,
Last time you talked
and
to me, you
I've
were going to
got,
retire. How's that
Yeah,
going?
happy
That was
retirement.
a couple of years ago, and I'm just riding the crest of the wave right now. And I've got like 52 students, and um, I teach violin, viola, cello, and I've got a lot of awesome kids. And I pivoted and turned to beginner intermediate kids because there are a lot of awesome people like Steve, that are giving clinician things and teaching these kids on a much higher level. But in my area, I've noticed there are not very many people who really want to take on uh, beginners and make them a focus. So I'm doing well.
Teresa, first of all, I think you're bringing one of the most A-game colorways to this Zoom call I've ever seen since I started taking Zoom calls. Really, it's a great color scheme happening here, so I'm really appreciative. But wow, that's amazing. So you're at 52 students. I love, and the other big takeaway is you're pivoting into what you know you like to do. These beginner intermediate students on multiple instruments. Your days are probably not boring. Your eyes light up. You say your kids are wonderful, right? So yeah, I mean, you're doing the thing. Like that's what we want to do forever. That's so cool. So congrats. I mean, that sounds like extreme success for you right now. You look
it's it's going real well. And I was going to tell her name just slipped my
Abigail.
mind. Abigail, is that she might consider too the possibility of hiring a high school student as an after school person. They just bring their homework, they shepherd the kids, and they stay there for like 3 hours or so every day. And that gives you the flexibility to focus on doing the pivots you want, deciding where you're going. And that might be just the thing, rather than after school daycare or anything like that. I'm thinking if you just had someone supervising, um it would be a good thing, and it'd be a cost effective thing. It's a win-win for the student who um gets a chance to have their own study hall but manage the kids, and gives you the freedom that you don't feel like you're going to be stretched too thin as a mom.
Oh, mhm. Yeah, help's a good idea. And Teresa, something else, just in general, this group, I was thinking about this last night, is a lot of relationships have spun out of this group. So when you hear somebody's story that you have maybe experienced a story similar to theirs, or you're currently experiencing a story similar to theirs, we've had podcasts come out of this group. We've had great relationships come out. Like, don't be shy because I'll do a post and I'll tag everybody that was here and, reach out to the people, send them a message, connect because this is a really great way to just, like I talked about the beginning of the talk today, which is we have this kind of built-in network of both mentoring and colleagues and camaraderie that's really, really special. So I would definitely encourage everybody to lean into that. By that, I'm going to put Teresa's cell phone up in the group and we can all call her all the time. I'm just kidding, Teresa. I won't do that to you. But anyway, hey,
Only between the hours of 10 and 1.
AM, you got it. Perfect. I'll call tonight.
Oh,
So
I'm coming for you.
I know. You should. Anyway, Teresa, thank you so much. Hey, let's pass the baton on. I want to get another check-in from somebody else if we can. Would someone like to raise their hand or say, and if you don't want to, you don't have to, but I'd love to hear what's up, what you're working on. Maybe somebody who hasn't been here or hasn't been here for a while. I see Mike and Melissa here and oh, there's Nate. Hey, Nate, what's up? Why don't you say hello? It's good to see you.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, good to be here. Um,
Don't be giving anybody that EIN. I hate that.
yeah, it's just it's hard. This is like a uh student. It's one of the only students I still work with because we've had this long relationship for like 10 years. I know they're really struggling with money, so part of me is like, well, I don't know. Sure, do what you are trying to do, but
It's always one, right?
um
Anyway, how are you doing, man? What's up?
I'm good. Yeah, I've been a little bit overwhelmed lately with I have all these sort of bigger projects with growing my business that it's hard. Been having a hard time getting ahead on just because the treadmill of my regular work, just doing a long form song video every week and just admin with my business, it just kind of takes up a lot of my work time. So I have completely blocked out February. I'm gonna say no to everything social. I'm no drinking. Just head down to completely redesign. I'm rescripting my main piano course. Um, I released it 3 years ago, and I think I can make it a lot better. And I've gotten a lot of feedback on it. So that's where I'm at right now. It's going to be February tomorrow, and I'm gonna completely rescript my course. And I guess my biggest challenge right now that I would be curious if you have any thoughts on it is like uh, I've gotten so much feed. I sent an email out to everybody who's ever bought in my course just to get feedback on it, and I got so much great stuff. Uh, and I have so many ideas, and there's a lot of stuff that I know I can add to make it better. But I'm worried about. I want to walk the line between when I first designed the course. It's really streamlined, like not a lot of fat on it because I want people to be able to get from point A to point B and get the transformation as simply as possible. And different people come to it with different needs. So I have all these different feedback of like, I would have loved for you to go deeper on this, or I would have loved for you to go deeper on this. And I'm worried that I'm going to take all that feedback and go deeper on everything. And then all of a sudden the course is going to feel a lot more overwhelming to people that join it. So that's kind of the big question in my mind. Like I could pretty easily just tighten up the script on the course I already have and just shoot it way better because my video production has gotten a lot better in the last 3 years and kind of just make it a little bit better. But I want to add all this stuff to it, and I'm worried that I'm going to add too much.
Well, I hear that. So yeah, that's, getting feedback. The too many cooks in the kitchen thing
Hmm.
is really tough because you want to serve everybody, you want to make everything, you want to offer all the things. But if your course has been effective and you're giving it a facelift, you know, I feel like you know what you're doing so well that you can, practice being the producer, which is editing, and be like, okay, how can I get the core things that I want these people to know? And this is a great moment to ask why. Like, why would I put that in the course? Like, it's cool, but and what could happen? Could that divert them from understanding the bigger picture of what you're trying to get them? Because it sounds to me like maybe you've got an additional course to build, or you could have a follow-up course, or provide value in other ways for people that buy the course, to where and you would keep the course itself really focused and tight, because that's probably what's working well for you. And if there's a glaring omission, then you can add that in. But you got to call that, I think, or get some help. Someone you trust. That's a good spot for a peer.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one of the things I'm struggling with is on one hand, maybe I do just need more courses, and right now I already have two, and sometimes I worry about like people's decision paralysis, like what course should I buy, and so I kind of want to just have one product, or just really streamline it. But yeah, it's hard because you can't make the thing that's the right fit for everybody, and you know, it's easy for me to feel like sometimes when I get refund requests. Usually, if I get a refund request, it's from someone who joined the course thinking it was going to be more advanced than it is, or at least the early modules is stuff they already know, and then they're like, "Oh, I thought this was going to like just be all this. You were just going to tell me a bunch of amazing things that transform my," and they don't want to, yeah, like more intermediate players. But I feel like if I cater to that, I'm gonna shake off a lot of the people who are more beginner that do get a good transformation out of it. So yeah.
Yeah, and that sounds like what you're saying, and what I'm hearing you say too. It sounds like you really care about it. You want to do great, and uh, your two areas. It's the course, but it can also be your messaging up front. right? People maybe not
Hmm.
understanding what they're getting. You talked about course paralysis, or decision paralysis, which is really important. Maybe the next course is like the next level, or like the next, you put it in a series to where you buy the first thing first, then you can market those people. That's called an expansion, right? Where you're taking a
Yeah.
customer that bought something from you, you expand them to buying another. I mean, honestly, for some reason, like listening to you talk, there's a couple people that I have in mind that I'd be happy to. I mean, Melissa's here. She's one of them. Is just people that's having an outside view that understands sales, psychology, and pedagogy really well, that
Hmm.
could spend a very short period of time listening to you and maybe taking a quick look. I bet you could get a ton of insight because you seem like you're in the weeds,
Hmm.
right? Like you're in it. So you're like, oh, what's this? I did this. And just, I think having a unbiased expert that understands the sales structure, the psychology of a student who wants to, of a beginning student, and high level pedagogy, I think you would get, I think that you would massively get a lot out of that. I
Yeah,
think it could unblock.
that would be really helpful because then a whole nother component is I have my main piano course, but then I have my theory course that I sell separate. And like some people buy one or both, and I'm starting to feel like I want people to have both because when I do like a sale of both, I feel better about the whole picture they're getting. And I'm trying to think in the future, is it just going to be a bundle? And like, there's all this stuff going through my head because if it is a bundle and they're always going to have the theory, then I can reference that theory in the main course. And yeah, it's just stuff like that is
Yeah, and
I'm a
and
little
and
overwhelmed.
and for everybody, kind of the theme that I brought to today's talk is a little about this idea of like connection and mentorship and seeking guidance. And what I just tried to show with what Nate is to listen to what Nate was talking about, but then pinpoint the areas that are of concern, right? The product, and this can apply to anything that you're doing, anything you're selling, whether it's your lessons, your classes, your books, your courses, and then to identify where you need an unblocker, right? Because I'm Nate and I have a very similar psychology, how we function, right? Pretty fast, we can get overwhelmed. And so if you can identify those very clearly and then seek that out, whether it's someone else, because like you don't need you know, whatever, a basic coach or something or like that, or a business person to help you with this. You need a really specific thing to unblock. We're unblocking um, my gosh, what's uh, the thing that comes up I talk about them all the time and now I'm spacing on it. I'll think about it in a second. I'll
My
say it in the middle of.
question for you, Nate, is
Oh, there's Melissa. I thought you were
yeah,
here. I was hoping
yeah,
you'd say something.
yeah. Well, I'm trying.
Yeah.
My question is, would you consider doing almost structuring like college level courses where you have 1,000 level, 2,000 level, 3,000 level, 4,000 level? And for those who have already bought, who are on your mailing list, offer that next level at a discount and say, hey, I listened to your feedback. I don't know what your course is priced, but if you've taken the original course and I'm going to do this deep dive and do this, 2000 level now, you're going to get this at a discount because you've already been there, done that with me. But then for new people, you can put whatever pricing structure you want on all the different levels. I'm in a similar situation with my course that I put out in 2019. And so I'm right there with you. And that's the structure I'm thinking is I can triage the priorities and say, okay, this year I'm going to do this and I'm going to go further with this particular issue or this particular module set. And I'm going to put that out there. And then next year I'm going to do that one. And then the next year I'm going to do that one and keep building out. But you can structure and reward loyalty.
Yeah. Yeah, I think having a more advanced level is a good idea. And I just need to sort of pinpoint where that is because it's a little fuzzy with everyone coming into the course kind of knowing different chunks of things. But yeah, I think that the first priority for me is I do definitely want to reshoot the main course.
Yeah.
Just because it's been 3 years, I watch it now and I'm like, I could just present this so much better. My video production on my YouTube channel has gotten way better, and I hate that people, watch my videos, get into my YouTube channel, and then they buy the course and the video production. They like finally shell out money for my like big course, and then the video production is like way worse than what they're used to from me. And it but just bothers me. Like I think I'll feel better about promoting it if I feel better about my main product. So I think that's my first priority, is to remake the main course. But I think before I do that, I do have to think about, well, what am I going to include in this, and what am I going to save for a more advanced product that I make, in the second half of the year, or like kind of, yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, but yeah, that is helpful to think about, because I think over the last month been stuck in this place of, I'm just going to make this one product and it's going to have everything, and I'm just going to have to figure out how to make it really streamlined still, but have a bunch of like little bonus sections where people, if they want to go deeper, they can. I still might do something like that, but yeah, I think I need to think about breaking it out more. Yeah. Well,
Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing that, Nate, and thanks for jumping in, Melissa. I had it in view mode. I couldn't see you. I knew you were around somewhere,
Yeah,
but I didn't know
it
if you were like tuning your piano still.
no,
So,
I'm here. And before I have to go, a hot, quick tip, because I've been talking to a few coaches this week. And just for everybody, one of the things that's happening that we're seeing and hearing economically, and for a lot of small businesses, is people are reacting out of fear right now. There's a lot of that going around. So when the market goes low, buy, build, 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 build. And when the market goes high, sell, sell, sell. So if we're in this period right now where people are reacting out of fear and the market's dropping, that's when we build. If you have any kind of savings, if you have any kind of resources, if you have any kind of capital, if you have any kind of credit and you're able to get a small loan, use some business savings, and you have things that you're trying to do and build and grow, now is the time, because other people are reacting out of fear and they're shrinking and they're desperate. You don't need to operate from that viewpoint. You can, if you have the resources, that's the qualifier. If you have the resources, now is the time. If you don't have those resources, don't worry about it. If you don't have the business savings, if you don't have, capital available, if you're not able to get a loan, don't worry about it. But that's what we're talking about in the coaching and in the business world right now. Is this is not a time for us to be scared and operate out of fear. This is a time to move forward business wise and say, I'm going to invest, I'm going to buy, I'm going to build.
wow, Melissa, that's awesome. I was actually feeling like you were speaking to every aspect of my life. Like this is a time to be big and to be awesome and to model excellent integrity and be even more yourself and be authentic. And I was hearing a lot more than what you were saying when you were just saying that. I was like, oh God, let's go.
Absolutely.
So,
And
yep.
watch the language around some of the businesses who are desperate. Okay. And don't do that, because I've seen it and I know you all have seen it too. They're desperate for students, they're desperate for clients. You are not desperate. You
No.
are going to build.
That is beautiful. That's really well said and beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Do you have to jump off, Melissa?
Soon I can
Okay.
stay for a minute. But yeah, soon I have to jump. But yeah, sorry.
Well, thanks for stopping by and chat. That was lovely. I
Yeah.
appreciate that, and that filled my heart up a little bit. Um, who would like to share something that's going on, something that's happening, something that hasn't been here for a while? We still have plenty of time and feel no pressure. But let's see here. Who's Lindsay just showed up. Megan's here.
Can I ask a question?
Of course. What's up, Caleb?
Sweet. Well, I'm doing my first studio showcase in a couple years. We've got the venue booked, and I'm trying to decide. I just kind of want the feedback from the room. I'm having a lot of imposter syndrome as a teacher right now for some reason. But also, I'm trying to decide if I want to do one long like night with all the beginners in like a half and then a break, and then do like an electric set with my advanced students, or do two separate days. Two? Melissa says two. Okay.
Yeah, and let's just really quick go back one. What's up with I'm really grateful that you shared the imposter syndrome thing. Can you describe that a little bit more?
Oh, I've got like I have students walking in that are asking questions that I know, and it's like, okay, you're paying me for an hour. I'm asking you. We've worked on your stuff for 15 minutes. I've answered all your questions. Do we just keep drilling? Do we keep improvising? Do I keep introducing new stuff because you're not quite ready for it? All that stuff.
Wow. Okay, that's I mean, these are two really great things. So to answer your second question, which is what to do with your showcase. I love what Melissa said. I want to also respect that Megan, thanks for sharing that you're feeling that imposter syndrome too, because everything everybody says in here, we're all feeling, we've all felt it. And I would really encourage what Melissa was saying, but also with Steve. If you haven't followed his social for what he's been doing with his jams lately, I mean, it is just massive joy and great vibes that he's bringing together in these venues. I'm sure he'd be happy to share those. He shared them with the group too. But let's go. Let's talk about this. I mean, I'm sure everyone here goes to those things of feeling imposter syndrome. And honestly, it sounds like what's going on is to me, there's a how that time is going in the studio, right? You're
Yeah.
feeling like you're doing what you think you need to do, and then you're getting to a point where you're like, oh gosh, what do I do now? What do I do? And that is a really common thing and a great moment for you to try new things, right? Because what I and this is more of pedagogical. This is how we use our time, and this is a whole other conversation that we should come together as a group of teachers and talk about because I have a very unique way that I've developed where not unique, but it's my own with how I spend that time in the studio, where I'm doing a lot of digging, asking a lot of questions. I ask a lot of why questions. Some days, if I'm working on something that's really important to me, I'll be like, this is how I'm working through this piece. Let me show you where I am with this really difficult passage. I realize that I'm practicing, but you're going to learn by watching me play this for like 7 times in a row. And, you
Yeah.
know, it becomes a creative endeavor. And this, I think this would be a great side thread, which is maybe we have a talk, a mastermind about how we spend our time because there's no imposter syndrome, what you're describing. It's more of a creative block or a pedagogical block or a time management block, or it could be the student energy block. Like we could dive so deep into those moments. The emotion that you're feeling is a result of one of those actions, right? So you're having an emotional response to something that's happening in your studio, and the emotional response probably um, isn't the most helpful. Our minds often do that, right? They're not going to always spin up the most helpful emotional response. So I really think that'd be a great topic to dive deeper in on because I think we could all learn from each other a lot too. And I'm grateful you shared it. And Megan, I don't know, and just before we jump off this, 'cause I'd love to hear what Megan, she mentioned it, what she feels about um, her imposter syndrome. If it's okay to call on you, Megan, to bring in the convo. And Melissa was saying, yeah, mixed levels and split. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Like if you can make the event to where it's not too long, right, where people can come and really have a great time, that is a rock solid idea. You want that event to be a gift back to your community, right? It's got to be energetic, it's got to be fun. You don't want it to feel pedantic and long. And you'll find your legs on that. You're throwing a performance party basically. So, um, Megan, could I ask you, are you there? I don't know if you're on.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, dude, what's up, Megan? Yeah, could you expound on maybe what's going on with
Sure.
you and we could share that?
Yeah, so I took over a multi-teacher studio about a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
I had been teaching voice and piano there, and then I took over the studio and added music together, which I also have taught for a little while. I think the biggest feeling of imposter syndrome comes in just in all the business side of it. And I am the boss and I own it and I have to um basically figure all that out that I don't have any background in.
Wow. Well, that's brave and really cool of you to share, right? And you're probably doing far better than you imagine that you are. And we're all learning on Earth School, right? And we're all, on this journey. So yeah, so you're feeling like, oh gosh, am I a good manager? Am I running this thing well?
Mhm.
This is a really great um, opportunity to, hey, I mean, I don't know if you have friends that are doing similar things, but if you don't, I know a lot of people that are in a very similar situation, either maybe further ahead or a little behind you, right? That maybe having a small group of people, private, a text thread or something, just to feel like you have, a sounding board. But when you talk about, you took over this business, what's been the hardest part of it? Now you're managing a staff, you're doing multiple types, you're scheduling, you're probably managing a space.
Mhm.
What's the thing what's the area that causes you the most stress?
Oh, that's a good question.
Or just all of it?
Yeah, I think probably the financials in general, because my predecessor, it was very like separate. It was just every teacher rented a room basically to teach and did their own thing. And when I took over, I brought it all under one brand so that my goal then was to be able to bring another under one brand and then expand to group classes, more ages, instruments, and all of that. Um, and I like to do a lot of projects at once.
So fun.
So I think just the overwhelm of trying to like focus in on one thing or a couple things is probably where I struggle. And just the whole financials, like I said, it's just not in my wheelhouse, is not in my background. So figuring out margins and all of that and realizing that it was definitely not profitable before, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to get it to that point to make all the time and effort that I'm putting in worth it.
Yes, yes. I mean, gosh, I think everyone here can relate to that. Business ownership is such a journey. And like what Melissa was just saying, as a good coach, could be really helpful because one of the things I believe is that maybe you're shying away from the financials, right? And because you're like, I'm not good at that. I've never been good at that. And the reality is it's you could be good at it. It's just another thing to learn, but it's a scary thing. And there's two ways around. One is you hire someone to do it, and the two is to make time to do things you don't like or you don't feel like you're good at, because the goal, hopefully for all of us, is to continually grow, right? And to grow as a person. And the scary stuff is where we end up growing and we push ourselves. So I think it's a really cool idea with for you to find somebody to be a friend with that. And if you want to reach out to me, I would love to connect you and make some introductions. Two, I think it'd be really helpful to talk with a coach who's been there before, like right through your thing. And I know a bunch of people that'd be really appropriate for that to look in there and see, just take a quick overview to give you some guidance because you're probably doing awesome,
I
right?
have actually reached out. I'm working now with Alyssa O'Toole from Musicians Playground in Boston
Yeah, yeah,
that does
yeah,
some
cool.
business coaching. So we've been starting that off as well.
Yeah, so you're investing in yourself. And again, I'm going to come right back to this book on the top of my stack right now, Self-Compassion, because this is all really hard stuff, right? I'm really loving that book right now. So anyway, thank you for sharing that. That's really interesting. Two different, you know, um examples of where we feel that imposter syndrome. I still feel it all the time. I was at NAM last week, and it was our first like kind of big introduction being with all the other brands we were with, and I hadn't been to I've been to a million trade shows, but I was like, what am I doing here? I'm so like no one's gonna like me. And I was like I know that I can get along with people. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like I've been doing this for a really long time, but you get that emotion and it's really difficult to just to quell it down. So anyway, we're all there with you, and yeah, thank you for sharing that, Megan. That's awesome. And I want to learn more about your school too. So would love to connect further on that. I see that. Um,
Hey, Christina.
oh, there's Mike. Hi, Mike,
Hey,
dude.
I want to hear about
Hey.
Nam from your perspective because I didn't catch either of you cats there at Nam, but
Oh, you
I
were
want to.
there? Oh.
No, the disaster kept me in New Mexico because we're putting together a charity concert for the wildfire. So I'm in the middle of that.
Oh, that's
But
nice.
I wanted
Thank
to
you for that.
hear about your experience fangirling out about Jacob Collier. So
Oh my gosh, he was amazing. I actually really didn't know much about him before I went, and I went to the Grand Rally for Music Education. I go every year because it's always inspirational.
nice.
And actually, Victor Wooten spoke at the beginning and was
Of
talking about
course he did.
imposter syndrome a little bit. Speaking of, and he was talking about how he doesn't really know what he's going to do when he goes on stage today, and then he just played for us, and it was incredible. And then Jacob Collier got up and spoke about inspiring children, and he talked about how we need to make music into like a playground for them. So I came home thinking that some of my students I need to teach differently, or I need to mentor differently, I guess, or facilitate their lessons differently using some of
Right?
those things from
Yeah.
that. I was braining on that. But then he played for us, and he every year like someone usually conducts like the audience at that event. So we got to sing as a big choir, and it was really cool to be in like a giant room of music educators singing at the same time. It's beautiful. But
He's
I was
something.
actually he is amazing. I've never seen anything like that in my life. I left crying, and I don't cry often at musical events, but I was like bawling when I left. Um, but I spent most of the weekend with one of my friends who's in a heavy metal band, um, and seeing like a lot of my friends from that side of my music life. And I had my like piano teacher badge, so a lot of the other people are like artists or whatever that are endorsed for guitar stuff. And a lot of them would look at my badge and be like, "Oh, you're a teacher. That's really cool." And something that I've dealt with when I go to NAM every year is like feeling a little bit like an imposter, like I don't really belong there. So I feel that every year, but every year I leave feeling like renewed in myself and in my abilities. And this year I had a lot of really wonderful conversations about the importance of music teachers, and the private music teachers specifically, and the things that we do, for the next generation of musicians. So something for all of you to take out of that, I guess, that we're doing important work. That was the theme of my weekend. So
That's an
yeah,
awesome theme. And I know that exact feeling when you're hanging out with like touring artists or endorsees and you just feel like,
I mean,
oh, why aren't I doing? Yeah, yeah.
I I hung out with somebody that was in the Smells Like Teen Spirit video from Nirvana. Like, and he's in like a really big band, and I went to dinner with them, and like hearing all these stories from these people that, are performing, and feeling like, oh, I haven't really done anything, but them telling me the stories about how they learned music and how they got into it is so cool. So you
Oh,
never know what your students are going to do and what
that is
impact you're going to have.
that's a lovely share, Christina. Thanks. Gosh,
Yeah.
all that emotion I know so as you mentioned that, I was like, it came in my heart and I was like, oh, I that's a very unique feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Weird.
it is.
Yeah, very cool.
That's fantastic. Eric, I was thinking about the mentoring presentation that you did at the top of the hour, and the thing that I would say about mentoring and gurus and that whole universe of people that either help us or we find ourselves being in that position as helping. I think the thing that I would mention is that you never know how the mentorship will sustain itself over decades. And the other thing that I would mention is that don't be afraid to ask help from people that you think are above your pay scale, because they will benefit you in ways that you can't even imagine. I put in the chat a link to a project that I was a part of. I won't delve into it too deeply here, but it's an example of how mentoring and tutoring, you know, just presents opportunities just because you have conversations with those people that become mentors because of projects that you were doing, or you ask of them for help and they say no. And as one of my mentors says, no is always something with a question mark at the end, and you can be okay with that. And I would just say that mentoring is something that is a lifetime and it's longevity. And every time I come to a Fons Mastermind, I'll say that I always have the imposter syndrome kind of turned up to 11 years. So I get that. But I would say, don't be discouraged. and also, ask for help when you're stuck, like Nate with his reimagining of a course, or Abigail, figuring out how to reimagining her practice. I think that the mentoring is always there, and you got a whole Hollywood Squares kind of thing here on the Zoom call today, where you can ask for help anytime from any of us. So
Yes.
that's my thoughts.
Can we just
Hey,
call this the Hollywood Squares of Fonz now?
yeah. Hey, speaking
Right.
of, let me take a quick screenshot of all of you. Everybody, 1 second, because this is a really cool crew we've got here today. Let me just
Turn on here.
give me a quick hello here. Give me a wave. 1 sec. Okay, right now, here you go. Thanks. Yeah, that's a superstar cast. And
Yeah,
thank you. And
yeah,
Mike,
I'm not
thanks.
going to do my Leland Sklar version of photographing, so I won't.
No, Mike, well, I mean, thanks for sharing that. And that's really what it's all about. And I'm becoming more and more grateful. Yeah, I'm really grateful that I was going to say, hey, let's not talk about the outside world today. Let's talk about our inside worlds. And I didn't need to. I haven't had a conversation that didn't bring the outside world in for quite some time now, and that didn't left me feeling somewhat despondent, to be honest. So this time together was so great, that it was so supportive and so cool. And we have so much to be grateful for, because our work doesn't suck, right? And a lot of work sucks, and a lot of what people are doing sucks. And I mean, everything that we're talking about today is all so good for the world. And you know what? I was thinking about Caleb, and Caleb, I'd love to just maybe we can jump on a phone call this week. Uh, just encourage, if you can be in a lesson with a student, a child, or a human at any age, and you can just be joyful and creative and fun right now, and loving and caring and really devoted to just them moving forward, like AI is not going to replace that, right? It's not going to touch it. And I think what's going to happen is, I love AI because I feel like it makes the me more important and more valuable, right? And my relationships with how I can connect with kids and people and humans. Because I don't know, I think we're on the verge of a really great time for being us. And I know we're out of time. And Melissa, if you have to run, please run. Thank you for being here. I have a few more minutes if anybody has something that they wanted to share or get some feedback on before we jumped off. I'm not in a rush today. But I see you just jumped in, Lindsay and Dave. I didn't hear from you, Isabella or Rachel. Rachel, you have a podcast coming out, right? And I'm going to be putting that. I'll do a post today with this session. And if you all can put your links that we talked about in that post, that'd be super cool. So we can be sure to follow up. Yes, Tressler, you're out. Go to your skiing thing. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, good to see y'all.
Yeah, and
Bye.
if anybody needs to jump off, we're at the hour go. If anybody wants to follow up and chat for a second, I'm here for. I have a little more time. Rachel, did you want to share something about your podcast so we can be sure to watch it or listen to it?
Um, yeah, sure. It's the Top Music Piano podcast.
That's
So
great.
we're in the middle of a series on multi-teacher studios. And so I did an interview yesterday with Katie Christ, and it was really gold. It was pretty short, but she just had so many great little nuggets about like finances, and she actually like built a studio from scratch and eventually sold it. So she kind of talked about how she made it like attractive to buyers. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. So it comes out next Friday.
I got to be part of that process when she was building her studio because I was her web developer originally.
No
No way.
way.
So I love her brain. She's so good at all the things. I'm excited to listen to that.
Yeah, be sure to share that when it comes out, Rachel. And actually, all the stuff you do, I think I commented on something else you were like that. This is great stuff to share with the group and to keep us posted, especially when we send out newsletters and things like that. Those are great things to get the word out for.
Thank you.
So, Lindsay, did you have anything going on with you?
Um,
I know you're in deep, but
I'm in deep. It's great. Just I shifted from being a charter school band teacher for 10 years to uh, starting last year around April, opened up my studio. Now I have 30 kids and it's amazing and I love it. And I'm currently in a mastermind with Sarah Campbell, and she coached me last year. So she's amazing. But I don't know. I don't have anything specific. I just wanted to come and feel the energy. You guys are great. This is wonderful.
Oh, well, congratulations on all those things.
Thank you.
Yeah, and having that support outside, is that mastermind you're talking about, is that really helpful for you?
So helpful. It's been great. I mean, Sarah last year was just transformative and like helping my trajectory. I would have gone a completely different way and she steered me into very productive and valuing my time and all those things. And the mastermind right now, I think there's like 8 of us in the group. And it's good. It's just like kind of forces you, we meet every other Friday and it's just like, okay, this is the time to move forward. And so I think that uh, commitment and that time commitment just helps us like move in the direction in the area of things that sometimes get put on the back burner. So
Yeah, and also I was thinking about this when Megan was talking is just prioritization, right? Like having someone say this is what you should be focused on. Because we're all artists, so we all can go in a bunch of different directions, right? And it's really nice to understand how to work. If I didn't understand Kanban boards, I would die, right? Like I wouldn't function through a day, right? You all know what Kanban boards are. Like you can think of it as like Trello or whatever. You have a pipeline of tasks that you're doing. You drag them over, you only focus on the one that's in the top left corner, and you do that thing first, and that's it. And uh, those tools are so helpful to getting things done. The other thing that I've been doing for the last, gosh, 6 months is I've been doing a recap every single day of what I did the day before and what I want to do that day. So I don't just do my to-do list. My mom was an inveterate or is an inveterate to-do list maker. But she also, her really slick move is at the end of the day, she has yellow pads and she takes notes on what happened that day, and I picked that up from her, and it's been so helpful to be like, oh, this is my to-do list. This is what I knocked out. This is what I didn't do. Gosh, I should have maybe done this. Gosh, I'm glad I went to lunch with my best friend, even though I didn't get this done. That was a great trade-off. And I feel like that's really helpful um, in our work, in our life, because we're doing so many hats. We carry so many things. At the end of the day, you're like, I can't believe how much stuff that I did. So,
that's so true. So
yeah,
true. And it's easy to go down wrong rabbit holes or like less productive rabbit holes or rabbit holes that shiny things. So yeah.
absolutely. Yep. Very cool. Well, I'm glad things are going so well. And I think, Dave, we didn't, or Isabella, we didn't hear from either of y'all. You don't have to say anything, but if you wanted to say hi, welcome. Uh, Dave, we haven't seen you. You've been here before, right?
Yeah, I've been here once
Yeah,
before.
yeah, yeah. It was like one time.
Yeah. No, this is great. I love learning from all these different teachers because I don't really know anyone else who does this. Like, none of my friends do this type of work. So when I joined Facebook last year, I realized there's all these forums where I can learn from other people in the world with more experience in different markets, and I just didn't really have anyone to bounce ideas off of. So this is really great for me.
Well, welcome. It's really important, right? Because it's lonesome if you don't
Yeah.
know other folks are doing it. Well, we're glad you're here. And thank you for hanging out with us. And Isabella, I didn't get to hear much about what you do. I'm not sure what you're up to, but if you want to say hi really quick, I'd love to hear.
Hi, I'm Isabella, and I um, I used to run a couple of music schools for about 18 years.
Oh,
Um, I was big into Music Academy success. I was part of that whole culture. And during COVID, one of my music schools, we were seeing about 500 students a week. So it was a pretty large endeavor. But I didn't survive COVID, so I had to close my schools, and so I teach now out of my home studio. I teach about 60 students a week. I teach both voice, that's my primarily, and then I teach some piano because that's my background as well. But after COVID, I kind of hit such a depression. And I had a very hard time to bounce back from being extremely active, not only teacher, but business owner. And, something that my life was filled from the moment I opened up my eyes to the moment I closed my eyes, and then I suddenly found myself, you know, with 10 students. I didn't know what to do with myself, and I had a very hard time to bounce back. And I'm slowly getting back, out there. I wanted to get a little bit more organized because one of those things that, when you hit that depression, you know, you just, I don't know if any of you ever dealt with it. It's very hard time. You have a very hard time to bounce back. And, definitely I'm not the person I used to be. I'm trying to not be the same person because I was the crazy person then, running all that and bouncing between the family. I do have two kids and after that I also went through divorce. Anyhow, so it's I moved away from Music Academy Success because it was too much
Hmm.
and I was not ready to do that anymore. So I found you guys. I also I need a smaller community because I feel like I'm not starting from a scratch, but I'm a different person today. And so yeah, this is where I am today. So this is my first time here. I am using right now my music stuff. I wanted to pivot from that. I'm not too happy with it. I wanted to get something that is a little bit more organized and I don't have to spend so much time on it with the software and have basically software running my studio, not me constantly being on top of it. So this is a little bit more of an introduction for me to your community, which I love it so far, and I think I will be making that switch and slowly getting more involved with this.
Wow. Well, that
No,
was
not
thank you so much for you know what? As you were talking, I was like, oh my gosh, your students are so lucky to know you
oh, thank you.
because the fact that you can come into a group of people you've never met before and be that human. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what we do. Like we're being human. And if you can, that energy, kids pick up on that more than hu and adults do. They're
Mhm.
so open to it. And just
thank
like
you.
what Caleb was talking about earlier, that energy with a child is transformative because they're probably often not learning those how to express emotion or how to be themselves or how to admit these really difficult moments we face in life. Like you lost your the thing that was your thing. And businesses go out of business all the time, but until it happens to you,
Yeah,
it's a very different thing because you had your entire, we talk about seasons, you were forced into a new season by basically like an avalanche, right? And so you woke up one day and now, but you also were honest about it. And we're like, that sucked. I felt terrible because, you know, kids go through that in a microcosm every week in middle school, right?
yeah,
And so I just think it's really cool how you express that. And I'm really glad you're here. And I think that you're in a new chapter and
yeah.
you can always and you have all these skills that you picked up from what you were doing before. I mean, it's so inspirational, but now you're doing it your own way and your own school and you've had these life changes and you have this wisdom and you're going to be like you said, you're a different person, but that's also your different teacher. It's a
I
different
was just going
energy.
to say that
Yeah.
I think I became a very different teacher. During also that period of COVID, I went back to college and I went for psychology degree. And I totally pivoted in a different direction and I think that also opened up a totally different doors for me and I can see how I approach my students now versus the way I was before. I also come from the very strict background of European training,
Hmm.
when there was no room for a heart and understanding of a student. It's so yeah. I have to say that there is a things that the door were closed during COVID, but I also got a lot of opportunities by opening up another door and become somebody more human, I think. I don't know.
Well, thank you for sharing and thanks for being here.
Thank
That's
you. Thank you so
very,
much.
very cool. And it's really great to get to know you and to hear a little bit because I think that's inspirational to all of us on a lot
Thank
of
you.
levels with
Appreciate it.
because we're going to need to be doing more of these for a while and more togetherness and more, and that's something that's really important to me. I think that's really all we can do right now is be awesome energetically and loving and caring and really model that to the people you work with. It's powerful and it's the right thing to do. So anyway, thank you for being here, Isabella. It was great. It was great to meet you. And thank you all. I got to jump off in a second. I got to go meet with my boss in just a little bit and get ready for that. I didn't do the deck that I was supposed to do for him, but I did do the deck that I wanted to do this morning while I was watching my kid play basketball to share with you guys today. So I'm going to go do that. As always, I think I'll probably, if it's okay, I'll probably share this recording just because it was such a groovy talk. I'll post to the group. I'll tag you in it. Any links that you had of things that we talked about, any of the follow-ups when you leave this conversation, if something resonated with you, make a post because that's a good way for us to just catalog it. If you're like, hey, we talked about doing this thing to grow my school, but does anybody have any other ideas or is this what I should do? Like use it as a feedback board because although Facebook is lame, that group is a really great thing that we can have to keep track of what we're thinking and what we're testing, what we're trying. So please feel free to use that. If anybody wants to follow up, just DM me or text me. Most of you, I think, have my phone number at this point. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk more. But aside from that, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to try to do this next week at a slightly different time so we can kind of get our schedules because I know this is usually when I have a moment, but a lot of people are already teaching, especially on the East Coast. So I'm going to look for a new time next week. And my goal is to do one of these every week, at least for the foreseeable future. So awesome. So
Thanks
anyway,
a lot, Eric. We'll see you
oh,
later,
it's so
man.
good to see you,
Thank you.
Mike. Appreciate you all. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you really soon. Take care. Thanks. Awesome.